When my husband died, I didn't cry. That may sound harsh, maybe even inhuman, but by the time he crashed his car into a tree and left this world, he had already destroyed so much of mine. I cried when I found out about the affair. I cried when I told my daughters that the man they looked up to had built a second life behind our backs. And I cried when I found out he left 2 children behind, with a woman I never even knew existed. But when he died, I didn't cry. I breathed. People say death brings closure. Not always. Sometimes it leaves behind fire. And when the flames reach your daughters, when they start crying because strangers are calling them unchristian for not accepting the sons of the woman who destroyed their family, well, that's when you stop being a grieving widow and you become something else entirely. Let me tell you how I burned it all down. After the funeral, there was drama. So much drama. Turns out my husband didn't just leave pain behind. He left paperwork, money, confusion, and chaos. He had a life insurance policy, a decent one, and a personal bank account I didn't even know about. Turns out it all went to our daughters. Not me, not his parents. And you'd think, after what we went through, his parents would be kind to our girls, that they'd show a little grace, maybe even guilt. But no, they wanted custody of my daughters. They wanted to move in with us, into the same home their son used to lie to me, into the same kitchen where I cried after seeing photos of his affair. We said no, firmly, and that's when it began. The manipulation, the church whispers, the guilt trips, and then came that Saturday morning. It was my youngest daughter's birthday. Nothing big, just a trip to the local farmer's market. I gave her a little spending budget, told her to buy whatever she wanted, chocolate, candy, sweet things. God knows she needed something sweet after the year we'd had. She was gone for about an hour. When my phone rang, it was her. She was crying. "Mom, there are women yelling at me. I don't know them, they won't leave." I froze. My heart went cold. Then I ran. I grabbed my eldest daughter by the hand and sprinted across the market. We were weaving through stalls, crates of fruit, baskets of eggs, jars of honey. But all I could hear was the sound of my youngest sobbing through the phone. "They won't let me leave. Mom, they're saying I'm going to hell." My hands were shaking. I had no idea what we were walking into. And then I saw it. 6 older women, church women, had surrounded my 15-year-old daughter. They were wagging fingers, raising voices, reciting scripture like it was ammunition. "You're an ungrateful child. You abandoned your poor baby brothers. What would Jesus say?" And the worst part, my daughter wasn't fighting back. She was just standing there, crying, frozen. It was supposed to be her birthday. My eldest rushed to her, picked up her little sister's shopping bag and went to pay. I stepped between the women and my child, and I let it rip. Back. Away. They turned to me like I was the demon, like I was the one who needed saving. One of them, a woman I vaguely remembered from my ex-in-law's church, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You are failing in your duties. A good Christian wife would never abandon her husband's parents like this." Wife? Wife? The man they were defending had 2 children with another woman. He made our daughters feel responsible for his death. He destroyed the family I built. And now these women were cornering a child because we weren't playing pretend anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I leaned in close and said, "You want to preach the Bible at my daughter? Then read the part about wolves in sheep's clothing." We were asked to leave the market. The vendors didn't want a scene, but those women followed us out, hissing scripture like curses, spitting judgment with smiles. When we got into the car and shut the doors, the silence was deafening. My daughter just whispered, "Why do they hate us?" And in that moment, I stopped being afraid of those women, and I started planning their downfall. That night, after I put the girls to bed, I couldn't sleep. So I messaged someone, a quiet member of my ex-in-law's church I'd kept in contact with, someone discreet. And what he told me was worse than I expected. My ex-mother-in-law had posted a massive sob story in the church's Facebook group. Pages and pages of pity. According to her, my daughters and I had abandoned them, left them penniless and homeless, denied their dead sons children out of hatred for boys. And here's the worst part. She told the church that the affair partner was our surrogate, that I had approved it, but changed my mind when the babies were born boys. They were calling us cruel, unmotherly, demonic, and they were getting support, church support, gifts, money, prayers, sympathy, from people who didn't know the truth. People who had no idea what this woman had done to me, to my girls. And that's when I knew. It was time. She wanted a story. I'd give her one, with pictures and proof, and I'd deliver it right where she felt most righteous. Church. They called me bitter. They called my daughters unchristian. They called our truth a lie, and their lie the gospel. But they forgot one thing. I was still his wife, legally. You see, the divorce wasn't finalized before he died, and because of that, I still had access. I had the texts, the emails, the photos, the receipts of my husband's affair, the conversations with his parents, cheering him on, covering for him, mocking me. And I had one more thing, the messages where his mother, the saint of the church, called my daughters bastards 2 days after their father died, and blamed them for his death. That night, I opened a folder I hadn't touched since the accident. Screenshots, transcripts, scanned photos from our living room. Him and her, tangled together on our couch. She didn't look anything like me. Different skin tone, different hair, different smile. But there they were, together, smiling, unbothered. I sent everything to the print shop. I paid extra for glossy, high-resolution color. And I ordered multiples. Not digital, not anonymous. Physical, personal, permanent. When I got home, I pulled out an old church songbook, the kind they used for group hymns. White cover, golden letters, soft blue lining on the inside flap. Then I opened the first page and replaced the hymns with sin. The first image? My ex and his mistress kissing under the family cross. Below that, ex-husband's name and other woman's name, a blessed union in betrayal. Each page was structured like scripture, photo, text, explanation, a sermon of truth. I made 12 binders in total, each one personalized, each one with a handwritten note inside. Before you judge a mother, know her pain. Before you call a child wicked, know what they've survived. Sunday morning, I arrived early, not to pray, not to sit, to deliver. There's a table at the back of the church, a place where people grab songbooks if they forget their own. No one watches it. No one asks questions. I slipped the binders between the hymnals, neatly, carefully, silently, and then I left. By noon, hell came to church. By the time the church service ended that Sunday, the gossip mill had shifted into overdrive. The first binder was found by an older woman. She sat in the second row, always wore lavender perfume, always sang a little off-key. She thought it was a new hymnal. She opened it, expecting the words to Amazing Grace. What she found instead, a photo of my husband, her former youth group, Golden Boy, tongue deep in a woman who wasn't me, in my living room. Underneath, the truth they didn't want you to see. By the time the third binder was opened, people weren't whispering anymore. They were gasping. Some were standing up. Some left the sanctuary entirely. A few went straight to the pastor. And when they found the page with my ex-Samael's messages, the ones where she blamed my daughters for her son's death, called them names that would make even sinners blush, that's when the tide turned. The woman who had spent months weaponizing religion, who told the church we were heartless, selfish, unchristian, was now exposed, not just as a liar, but as a cruel, manipulative, two-faced hypocrite. And in that church, cheating may be forgivable, but cruelty to children? That's unholy. By Monday, the church Facebook group was in chaos. Some tried to delete the posts. Others screenshot everything. The pastor issued a public apology, not to me, not by name, but to certain families in our community who were misrepresented and harmed. Someone even used the word Jezebel. And they weren't talking about me. My ex-Samael, posted a long rant on her wall. She said she felt alienated, abandoned, that no one cared for the elderly anymore, that if her beloved son were alive, he'd still be protecting her, which made me laugh, because my daughters and I had been the ones protecting his memory. She had turned him into a victim, after he turned us into collateral damage. Some church members sent me apology letters. 2 were handwritten. One said, "Your daughters did nothing wrong. I hope they find peace in their own faith, even if it's not here." Another invited me back to church. I didn't go. I didn't need their sermons, because I had already written my own. Sometimes I still hear the question in my head, did I go too far? Was it revenge or protection? Was it cruelty to expose them so brutally? Or was it justice to finally make the truth louder than their lies? My daughters never saw the binders. I didn't show them. They don't know about the photos, the texts, or the faces that gasped in shock that morning at church. What they do know is that no one bothers them anymore. No strangers at the market. No lectures from pews. No whispers at the checkout line. Just silence. Just peace. I didn't do it for revenge. Not really. I did it because I saw how close my daughters came to believing those women, to wondering if they were bad daughters, if they had abandoned family, if maybe, just maybe, they had deserved the pain they felt. I couldn't let them carry that, so I carried the fire for them, and when the time was right, I set the truth free. My ex is gone. His parents, they still exist somewhere, wrapped in their own pity. But my daughters, they're healing. And I've learned that being a good mother doesn't always look holy. Sometimes it looks like silence. Sometimes it looks like patience. And sometimes it looks like a binder, slipped quietly between the pages of a church hymnal, waiting to sing a very different kind of gospel. If you stayed with me till now, you've heard a story that never made the news, but it changed a family forever. Tell me in the comments, was it revenge or justice? I'm reading every one. If this story moved you even a little, tap that like button. It helps the truth travel. And if you want more stories like this, of healing, fury, justice, and raw truth, subscribe, because I have more to tell.